Hey, pardon me, do you know what time it is by chance? What's that? Speaker time. Okay, so the other day we opened up a bunch of mail here and had a bunch of speakers for the upcoming Not a Shootout. And I didn't really do anything other than give them an initial visual inspection and check for a little bit of coil rub, just real briefly, nothing thorough. So today I've got to run through those. I'm just going to use this power amp here and the signal generator here and just run a low frequency sine wave through them. Check for any rattle, buzz, coil rub, that sort of thing, anything funny that shows up. And we're going to start right now. So first up, we'll just use this one here that's on the bench. And this is the Consultation Heritage G12M. It would help if I turn on the amp. This amp does crackle a little bit as it warms up. It's an old, what is it, like a CA 1000 or something? CE 1000 crown? Yeah. But once you run some signal through it, it comes around. So I probably should have warmed that up first, because now it's gonna appear as if the speaker's bad, but it's not. I don't know if you can hear that, but you'll also notice there's a little bit of an ambient hum. Oh, speaking of hearing things, as that's warming up, you'll notice I have these funky things in my ears. That's not to compensate for the tinnitus that I've incurred through Motorhead and Alice in Chains and various other shows of sorts over the years. That is, I've actually been very good about taking care of my hearing, running sound and playing at clubs and all sorts of places, but the audio quality of my speech in the last few videos has been kind of eh. And I thought I would try these Sony earbuds because they're generally pretty good. I mean, although it's like a speech for phone thing, we'll see. I mean, I'm still using the shotgun mic on the camera with or without these, so we will just see if that is an improvement or not. Maybe I just look kind of silly. Okay, let's get going. I don't know how entertaining this is going to be for others. So I basically just dined the amp, so I've got a lot of clean headroom. It's in bridged mode. And give it a little bit of volume. Yeah, I really only care about the low frequency sweeps. It's probably too much volume. I don't want to blow these out. These are all 25 watt speakers at most. Okay, and that's fine. There's some ambient hum from this amp as well too. I don't know what that's from. It's noise in the room. Okay. I'm gonna call that a pass. And that's a new speaker, so I'm not being as critical on that one as far as like, I'm not gonna inspect the diaphragm. It's only a couple years old. If the adhesive that Celestion used is coming off the diaphragms already, we all have bigger problems than my speaker today. So, alright, I guess I'll have a look. You guys want to see? This is what I'm talking about. Right here at the spider. Can you see that? I said diaphragm, but the spider here. There's a glue around the side adhesive that holds it in place. On the originals, after so many years, that stuff does actually tend to dry out and become a bit loose. This is an earlier reissue though. Not at all concerned about that. And having a look at it, it appears to be intact quite well. tape that one up with a bit of haste. Forgetting that I needed to do a sweep on it first. And we're just going to try and roll through these quick. This one is the 1974 Creamback T1221, which is a 75 hertz M magnet speaker. When you hear the term Creamback today, Celestian's talking about like one of several modern speakers which have almost nothing to do with that. 65 watt neodymium magnets. I don't even know. People like them, but you know, when you listen to a bunch of new speakers in a music store, maybe it's good by that comparison, but what I'm looking for is for standard classic sounds of music. Rock, blues, jazz, pop, you know. Country, soul, R&B, classic sounds. Alright. Okay, I'm down at like a couple hertz here. Oh yes, that's a thing to discuss too. There's a little bit of rattle there, but I mean, I don't know if you can see that. That is going bonkers. And actually it seems to have sorted itself out too. Bit of dust in there. There we go. Once we get up into like real frequencies. You hear that? So this frame is out of alignment a little bit. Watch. Rattle. No rattle. Rattle. No rattle. Right. See, I can induce that. I'm good with that. It just needs a little bit of realignment of the frame. I can fix that. That is much, much better than some others. However, I'm going to turn the sound off. I'm going to call this a pass and just put a little bit of a note that the frame needs some realignment, which is something I can do. So, a couple little arrows there. Alright, that way I'll remember which way it needs to go. Although, when I do it, I actually do that realignment in this jig with the frequency sweep going. So, it won't be any problem to figure it out again. However, that's handy to know. I really don't know what the sound of that tape or the sound of these sweeps. I don't know how that's going to come through on the video. There might be a lot of like elevator jazz music playing during that. It could just be a bunch of not really sure. And I will put a note on here to say, I should have taken note of that the date stamp code. I'll review the video and put it on here later. But this needs slight frame basket, sorry, realignment. Okay. Next. Aha! This is, yeah. This is the Scumbag M75 PVC. This is the Scumbag version of the same speaker that Heritage was a version of, and same speaker that Greenback was a version of, which is the Pulsonic code T1221 Greenback. Alright. This also being a new speaker, I don't expect any problems. I think it's gonna be fine. Let's spin it up and find out. Okay, so sometimes I'll get a buzz like that, and it's just the bench. In this case, oh yeah. Let's not have rattly things on the bench while we're doing tests for buzz and rattle, right? My goodness. Freaked me out for a minute. Okay. So he's good. Sometimes it's just the speaker rattling on the bench, which is why I have this kind of nice, really, really thick and tough neoprene or something mat down from Stuart McDonald, hashtag no sponsor. Not a sponsor. Not a sponsor. No, I welcome it. I like most of their stuff. Not even gonna test that. Look at this disaster. I'm waiting on a recone kit for that one. I'm gonna try and recone or cut out and replace just this portion here of the surround. Keep the original Pulsonic cone intact, because that is indeed a real deal. Pulsonic cone greenback G12M. This is what all of the others here that I've been opening up would like to be. Although they don't want to be in that kind of condition. That was sold to me as no damage, excellent condition. Seller was cool about it in the end. We worked it out. Got a refund. But it's a bummer because now I don't have the 4 matching date codes. I had to put another one I had in that cabinet, which is close. But not exactly iced coffee, the beverage of choice this evening. Iced coffee is a good kind of coffee to have when you live in the desert, let me tell you. It is hot out. Well, it rained today, interestingly enough. It's not a regular occurrence here. Alrighty. Oh, I love these. One of my favorite speakers. Jensen C12N from 1968 in this case. Okay. Not a Hammond code, yet also not a Fender decal. It's like you almost always get one or the other of those two in this world. I'm going to go a little easier on this guy. I don't know what the actual wattage rating on these is. It's probably 20 watts just like the others, but oh. don't even need to. Look at that thing taking it. I don't know how good that's showing up. If I tilted it at an angle, does it show up better? Oh yeah. Yeah, I forgot. I set the frame rate to 24 frames per second for just this purpose. Do I look all cinematic? But look at that speaker. I don't know what that's going to look like on the camera. Like looking through the viewfinder, it looks kind of cool. It looks like it's going about, you know, a couple cycles a second. But that was 20. It was 20 cycles a second. Now I do hear some buzz around the room. I'm not being ignorant and oblivious to that, but from my perspective sitting here, it's really obvious to tell if the buzz is coming from here or over there. So you know, if you don't see me react to some buzzing, it's because, you know, I hear it happening over here on this tray of pickups or somewhere else where I'm not worried about it. There's metal file cabinets. I mean, this is not an anechoic chamber. We're not sure. Or Mackie. I think Marshall has one too. They have something going on with microwaves. I forget what. I'm more into megawaves than microwaves. This is not a speaker. I'm looking forward to opening that up. Okay, I have some other not a speaker items here on the bench. Sorry, in the shop that need to be moved aside. Okay. Well, we know what this is because it's too small to be 12 inches. That is the one I am most looking forward to. Look at that. Does that just scream of the 1970s? Hey, you know what? Can you see that? You can see through the surround on that a little bit. Isn't that cool? This is a JBL D110 from the 1970s. I don't think there's a date code on this to tell you an actual exact date. And that's how they are. But it is a yellow or orange decal, whatever you want to call that. And I think that dates it to the 1970s, which would align with what the seller said. There we go. Humming away already. Man. That thing is sensitive. It was considerably louder than the rest. That's the fan on the amp kicking on. You know, no speaker connected. It's funny, I don't know that I've ever heard the fan kick on this amp, but it's cold. Watch this thing die on me. Come on, we got one more speaker to get through, amp. I probably should replace that or fix it or something. It's probably not worth fixing. Man, I'm really glad that this D110 worked though. That's the one I was most looking forward to. I am most looking forward to. And that's for I think there's a good chance that it's going to end up in that Princeton reverb over there. I'm doing a 10-inch speaker, not a shootout, after I finish my Great American 12-inch vintage speaker, not a shootout. And for exactly the same reasons. The 12-inch one started as I just needed to figure out which speakers I was going to put into which amps of mine. And now the 10-inch will be done for the same reason for the Princeton. So that Princeton is to be my brighter and cleaner amp between the two, two being that one and my 65 Deluxe Reverb. So, I think that the speakers that will ultimately end up in that are likely to be either the original Oxford, which is in it now, or that JBL D110, because those are the brightest two, and the D110 is even brighter and clearer and cleaner and more open. But that Oxford might have more character and it might win me over. And either way, it's still brighter and cleaner than my 65 Deluxe Reverb with the Jensen C12N in it. I also have CTS Alnico, CTS Ceramic speakers to test in there among the other two, so that's 4. 4? That's 4? That's 4. Okay. What I don't yet have, and if you have one, viewers watching, please contact me. I need a Jensen C10N, and I also would like any other speakers that are 10-inch and appropriate for a Princeton from the 70s or 60s or 70s. So that could be Utah. I think there would be a Utah option. There might be an Eminence option. I don't know. But if you have any of those, the real thing. I'm not looking for something that's like almost right or kind of right. Like ideally Fender branded and in great condition. Please reach out and I would be happy to buy them if your price is fair and the speakers are what I'm looking for, and include them in the Not a Shootout. Okay. You still with me? I think we're down to just one more. I don't even remember what this is. Yep, now I do. That is a Oxford. Oxford 12-inch. No, Utah. This is a Utah. Utah 12-inch. Yeah, wasn't that right? Yes, it is. This is a Utah. 328. 503. So this is a 65 or a 75. I'm inclined to think it's a 65. I think the 75s tended to have those orange decals. And this also just looks more like a 65 in some other ways. But I am not as familiar with Utah speakers as I am others. Does everyone watching know how to tell the polarity? So I take a 9 volt. And I like one that is a little bit low on juice, so one that's been drained a bit. And how can you tell? Well, you could hook it up to one of these expensive meters, or you could just... That's a strong one. All right. It'll work. I just like one that's drained because it's DC on speaker coils isn't great, but I'm not going to hold it on there for long. So, if we watch on this camera, if we touch this to the tabs, and it moves out, the polarity matches the battery. If it moves in, it's opposite. Okay, so see, it moves out, out when I touch it, and I've got the negative on this side, so that means this is the positive terminal. And what I should do then is put a mark on it, so that I remember that later. Not that I did that on any of the others, but the others were marked, so I didn't need to. Interesting thing about JBL speakers, the D120s are reverse polarity, so the red is the negative post and the black is the positive. did I say D110s? On the D120s. I didn't test that D110 for polarity. Doesn't matter for what I'm doing here. It will matter if you hook them up though. Like I've got a couple D120s hooked up with a couple vintage G12Ms in a Marshall cab, you know, Van Halen, like JBL greenback combo thing, which sounds great if you run it as a 4-stack and you put the JBLs down by your knees. Otherwise, they're loud and bright and a little too much JBL. I mean, obviously, you can fix that mix in the studio, but to play it live, like 2 JBLs and 6 greenbacks, and the JBLs aimed like, you know, if you're on the audience over your head, or if you're playing on stage maybe down in the bottom cab, that's a great option. But JBL's beamed at your face. It's just too much JBL in the mix. You sound like Randy Rhoads. Not in his playing style, unfortunately. Just in the brighter sound. Alright. So yeah, I don't know if that D110 is reverse polarity or not. We'll find out. I have a D130 and I also don't know if that is or not too. I imagine it is. I mean, I feel like JBL would be consistent, even if they're backwards. Okay. There's the Oxford cooking. Utah cooking, sorry. If you see me doing that, what I'm doing is blowing the dust off of the... As that thing's rattling around, you can see like there's some particles of dust on there, and it's just a good time to blow them away. Yeah. It's got some coil rub. Not a lot, but... Ooh. Actually, I take that back. I can't make that go away either. Yeah. This one might be going right back. Well, that's a shame. Okay, if you have any Utah 12-inch speakers, in addition to 10-inch speakers, reach out. Looks like game on for those too. Okay, there's that. I think that's all of them. Yeah, that's it. Alright, so, lessons learned. Always test your speakers. You know, not just doing this comparison, but for myself, buying, replacing old speakers I had, I've bought several dozen, at least, 1950s through the 1970s speakers from all over the world in the last couple years, and a third of them go back mostly because they were not properly packaged. and they got damaged and they had coil rub. I can't say if in those cases how many of them had coil rub before they came to me. I can say that a couple of them didn't because I know the sellers, and they wouldn't have sold me a speaker with coil rub, and they know how to test them properly. Others, I don't know. You know, I think a lot of times these speakers are like Sprague Bumblebees and matched sets of vintage new old stock tubes where guys just sell them and they come back, and they sell them and they come back, or somebody sells them to somebody else, and it's like they just you see the same ones out there sometimes going around. Rejects of rejects, boomerangs. I don't know. Some people just don't know what they've got, or maybe they don't have the equipment to test it. I'm not suggesting it's all nefarious, but I am suggesting that if you're going to get into buying vintage speakers, vintage tubes, vintage pickups, ask me how I know about that. You really need to test that stuff when you get it thoroughly and make sure that it is what you bought. Because in those situations, I mean, the pickups not so much. If they sound good and they're in good condition, like, great. But the tubes, you know, if you don't have a tube tester or you don't have the means to test them in your amp, how do you know if they're in good shape or matched? I'm talking about output tubes. To the degree you want, unless they sound poor. Now, if they sound good, like, you could just say run them. But it could also be that they're mismatched and that they're going to be struggling and running hard and they're going to die. But more importantly than the short life or the additional noise that you may not be aware of at the time you're running them, you should be getting what you paid for. You know, like if you bought these tubes as new old stock or testing new old stock or new in the box, then that's how they should test and run. It's not to say that you can't run used tubes or mismatched tubes. I certainly do, and sometimes I like mismatched tubes. We're talking about output tubes here again. Preamp tubes, different situation. In that case, you know, if it sounds good and doesn't squeal, doesn't feedback, then yeah, run it. But you can run unmatched output tubes, you can run used, heavily used output tubes, whatever you like. But hold your sellers accountable to what they sold you and make sure you're getting what you paid for. Renegotiate the price if they're not what they are, or return them. And leave feedback accordingly, because there's a lot of guys out there that don't have tube testers or a way to know. I'm not trying to harp on tube sellers, you know, but there's a lot more of them now than there was pre-tube shortage. When you got a guy you know, stick with him, treat him well. That's all I'm saying. I don't sell tubes, by the way, so don't ask me for tubes. That's all. See ya! Speaker time!